Welcome to Tin Can Program. This is the sixth and final video in our Career Mode Guide series. This mission should be flown after completing all the other videos in the program. Today, we will learn about docking with a two-part Mün Landing mission. Before launch, we have some preparations to make. Begin by researching the 6 required techs: propulsion systems, fuel systems, advanced construction, advanced flight control, landing, and miniaturization. With that done, check mission control for any easy Mün-related contracts. Just like last time, look for any free money contracts that ask you to do something you would be doing already, especially to gather science or plant a flag. In any case, go ahead and accept the next World First contract. We won't complete it in this video, but it's a good idea to keep doing them. When you put Tin Can Tuna on the launch pad, be sure to assign a single pilot only, seated in the command pod. The service module is equipped with a basic autopilot, so only a single crew member is required. This final mission will synthesize everything we have learned previously into a single flight. During this mission, we will send a dedicated lander to the surface and leave a service module behind in orbit. After landing, these modules will rendezvous in Mün orbit, dock together, and return to Kerbin. After liftoff, maintain vertical flight through the entire booster burn. Booster jettison takes place about 1 minute after liftoff. Shortly after jettison, at 20 kilometers, begin pitch over. Pitch down to 45 degrees and hold until your app reaches 60 kilometers. At that time, pitch down to 15 degrees and hold just for a moment until app reaches 80 kilometers, then pitch down to the horizon. Maintain this attitude until the lower stage is empty. When you jettison the lower stage, press 7 to discard the payload fairing, and then throttle down to the minimum setting. Maintain your horizontal attitude through the entire low throttle burn. When app is 10 seconds away, return to full throttle and make orbit. Cut throttle as soon as PE exceeds 70 kilometers. Before we proceed, we can practice docking right here in Kerbin orbit. Use the staging sequence to separate the modules. Select the lander's docking ring and set it as your target. Now, turn the service module around and point it directly at the target nav point. Be sure the separation debris has drifted clear and give yourself about 20 meters of distance to make this practice run worthwhile. Press R to activate RCS thrusters. Press the H key to apply forward thrust and stop drifting away. Continue applying thrust until you are drifting toward the lander at about 0.5 meters per second. Now use the RCS thruster controls to align your approach. The default controls are the I, J, K, L keys in a similar configuration to the usual WASD. Use these controls to keep the prograde nav point centered over the target nav point as you approach. When you are about 5 meters away, press N to fire the RCS thrusters in reverse and slow down before contact. You should dock at 0.5 meters per second or slower. Turn off RCS as soon as the docking magnets begin to pull together. Transfer the pilot to the lander module and set Control from Here on its cockpit. For flavor, turn off the lights in the orbiter and turn on the lights in the lander. Press 0 to shut down the orbiter's engine. Now we can fly to Mün orbit. Use the same steps we used for Tin Can Turkey and set up a low orbit between 10 to 20 kilometers. If you can, try to land in a different biome than you did when you landed Tin Can Turkey. Otherwise, this flight will not return very much science. When ready to land, undock the orbiter from the lander. If you align toward a radial attitude before separation, you won't have to worry about colliding with the service module. For landing, we can follow the same process as last time. Activate the retrograde hold in surface mode and then burn at full throttle until your speed is close to 0. Cut the throttle and descend until your speed exceeds 100 meters per second. When it does, burn again until your speed is close to 0. Repeat this burn each time your speed exceeds 100 meters per second. You will need to do this a few times. If the upper stage runs dry, jettison it immediately. Extend the landing legs as soon as you jettison the upper stage. Begin your final descent at 3 kilometers. Jettison the upper stage, even if it has some fuel remaining, then begin a continuous low throttle burn to regulate your speed of descent. When you get below 1 kilometer, keep your speed below 50 meters per second and try to make ground contact at 5 meters per second or below. Be sure to cut the throttle immediately when you touch the ground. Press 8 to collect science from the lander's instruments, then send your pilot out for an EVA report and a surface sample. Don't forget to plant a flag, which provides a small XP boost. After you finish labeling your flag, it's time to reboard the craft and head home. Your pilot must use their jetpack to get back aboard. This time, to fly home, we need to rendezvous in Moon orbit first. To do that, we need to fly back to orbit. If you've never done this before, it's a good idea to save first. First, you need to be sure to orbit Moon in the same direction as the service module. If you fly the wrong way and end up orbiting in the opposite direction, you will have no hope of making a rendezvous. Look at the location of the sun and other landmarks to be absolutely sure to launch in the correct direction. Before your liftoff from Moon, set the service module as your target. Fly to orbit at full throttle. Fly straight up only as much as needed to clear the terrain, then pitch over directly to the horizon and hold. Push your app all the way up to 100 kilometers, then cut the throttle. Open the map, then warp to the point where your trajectory crosses the service module's orbit. Use radial velocity to bring your PE up and out until it touches the service module's orbit. Burn carefully to prograde. This will create a close encounter on your next orbit. Get the closest approach that you can. Correct your inclination at the upcoming ascending or descending node. When you are approaching the close encounter, set the speed indicator to target mode and activate the retrograde hold. When close, burn to match speeds with the target. If you're not close enough, you can do a second burn. Head straight for the target nav point and then retro burn again once you're close enough. Get as close as 100 meters or less for an easy docking procedure. Use the bracket keys to quickly switch between nearby craft without leaving the flight view. To begin docking, switch to the service module, target the lander's docking ring, press 6 to wake up the autopilot, then align with the target nav point. Now, switch back to the lander, realign with the target nav point, and activate RCS. Begin your approach for docking. Depending on the distance, you may want to approach at a higher speed to save time. Just be sure you have enough time and distance to slow down again. It's best to make contact at a minimal velocity, 0.5 meters per second or lower. Once the two modules are reunited, it's time to head home. First, transfer the pilot back to the orbiter, then set Control from here on the command pod. Reconfigure the engines by pressing 9 and then 0. Use a maneuver burn to plot your direct return to Kerbin's atmosphere at 25 to 30 kilometers. After executing this burn, transfer any remaining fuel from the lander into the orbiter's fuel tanks. Right-click while pressing Alt to open the fuel transfer dialog box. There are 5 separate tanks on the lander, plus 1 in the service module. Pin them all open, then press both IN buttons on the service module's tank. At Kerbin, engage the retrograde hold in surface mode. Enter the atmosphere, but don't jettison anything. Burn all the remaining fuel when you reach 60 kilometers. This additional burn will slow you down and allow the lander to survive re-entry. Jettison the orbiter's fuel tank and engine as soon as they run dry. Stage the parachutes at 2 kilometers. Deactivate the retrograde hold. If you are descending over land, be sure to re-extend the landing legs. Recover the craft, then we're done here. Congratulations on completing Tin Can Program. That's it for this video. Thanks for flying with Tin Can Program. We are required by internet law to instruct you to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Tin Can Program is expanding to Twitch for Kerbal Space Program 2. You can find more information about that in the video description below. Thanks for watching.